But I'm running for Congress for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is in this room. A grandchild in the very back, 2 sons in this room, as well as my wife of 34 years, Marcia Parker. As I debated about running, it scared me to death about stepping out of my comfort zone as a CPA and working with these clients all these years and be exposed to a lot of problems I knew was already in the district. The problems have not diminished at all. They've expanded themselves. If you can figure that you've got a credit card in your pocket and it's bearing an interest rate of 84%, that's very significant. And we're not, that boat is not rocking, it's almost sunk, as we mentioned earlier. And the word I've got to give you is that we all have got to sacrifice. We all got to sacrifice to come out of this together. We're in a ditch. We're going to drown together if we don't come together. And I promised some things that I'll hold true. I look back at one, taxes. Everybody's talking about taxes. And I'll never raise those taxes. One, I won't vote for a budget that doesn't balance. Can you imagine the budget that we have up there now that's about 3,700 pages? How many think have read it? How many think they care if they read it? They don't care. That's the other thing we got to do is put people back up there that care what's going on, not only in the districts but in the country. And so, as you think about the decisions you make for Congress, there's a lot of choices. There's a lot of good choices. So sort it out. Sort out our resumes. Look at our background. Check us out. And God bless you for being here. Thank you. First of all, how many of you ever worked on a budget? Everybody, right? Pretty much. The toughest budget I ever worked on was for the Walkmore Baptist Association. We had 75 churches to agree on something. Can you imagine that? 75 pastors agree on something? That didn't happen very easily. But the budgetary process, the first starting point is the source of revenues. How much money we've got to deal with. And that's where our biggest problem is now. It's shrinking. The revenue base is shrinking. Then I would say we have to identify what the priorities we have. And I think those 100 freshmen that you're talking about will come up with those priorities that need to be funded. And those are going to be tough decisions to decide what we're going to cut and what programs are going to be left off the table. Because entitlement programs are going to have a lot of coalitions to fight us. Okay? But, like anything else that you go into, we cannot spend no more than we take in. Rule number 1, okay? Rule number 2, we need to have some kind of reserve. Any budget I ever worked on, we've tried to build a reserve in that budget, whether it's Coastal Carolina University, the Walkmore Baptist Association, any budget I've worked on, we've tried to build a reserve. We have no such thing in the Federal Reserve, in our federal budget. Consequently, I go back to the word I said earlier, sacrifice, as well as bringing people together to build coalitions to solve a problem. He's talking about the 100 freshmen that may be coming into the Congress. New faces, new ideas that are not locked into lobbyists and special interest groups. That's going to be key to passing a lot of legislation that makes sense. As a freshman, I will do what I can to build those coalitions. And anything I've ever been involved in, the only way we accomplish things is we had to bring everybody to the table and make them feel a part of the solution. That's the key. They got to be part of the solution, because right now everybody's part of the problem. Democrats and Republicans are part of the problem rather than part of the solution in Washington today. Okay?
Earmarks, did you touch on that? Would you eliminate earmarks and pork barrel spending to help bring down the debt?
Earmarks I'm against. The only issues that I have right now that currently we have out there is that I-73 is important in this area. I think we can build a coalition along those states that are affected by this interstate. And I think that coalition can help us deliver I-73 through the budgetary process. Okay.
Thank you.
Cap and trade I'd be against. Fair tax, I've been looking at there for a while. When I endorsed it with Huckabee's campaign, I endorsed it. And I'm a practicing CPA, so I've been dealing with the IRS for 30 years. So to do away with IRS, amen. Quickly. But when we deal with the IRS, That is a government agency that is growing, just by the recent bill that was passed with the health bill. But those guys will probably be converted to the National Sales Tax Division to collect the fair tax, probably. But the fair tax has a lot of attributes in it. There's probably a few things we need to tweak in it. There's a bill in the State House right now that's working its way through. Hopefully it'll get through the process. But it'll be passed at the state levels first. But there's no way, I don't believe the IRS or the federal government will allow the states to collect their money for them. Because you would have states like California that's in the red, and you don't want to turn over your money that somebody's in the red. They may use your money for their purposes, right? So I think you'll see, even in a fair tax, there'll be a national collection and a state collection. But talking about what's happened in the last couple of years is that, as being a practicing CPA, the worst phone call I can get is from a client that says, "Clark, can you explain to me about bankruptcy?" Okay? The pros and cons. And that's a terrible conversation to go through, because you know those people are anguished because some of them have been in business for 10, 20, 30 years, and now basically they've seen their assets dissipate, and their livelihoods are being threatened. And that's where we are. That's where we are in a lot of our businesses. A lot of my motel clients right now are on the brink of disaster. Practically every motel that we deal with is on the brink of disaster. The restaurants we deal with are holding their own because we got to eat. And that's one area that's not showing a lot of growth, but it's holding its own. Our small businesses that have, everything trickles down in this tourism market. And a lot of our clients are seeing their revenues go down 28 to 30%. The fair tax, I think, would go a long way in bringing more profits back into their companies. When more profits are there, they'll hire more people, and they'll eliminate more of our unemployment issues. So that's where we need to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark.
Term limits I support, 3 terms, and then 6 years. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
And glasses.